All right, guys, so today we're going to be doing our introduction on the Civil War. All right, you have a packet on your desk. It has a KWL on it, and it's also our Cornell notes for the KWL, if you guys don't know, right? The K is for what we want to know, or what we do know, excuse me. The W is for what we want to learn, and the L is for what we're going to learn, right? We're going to leave the L to the end of class. That's going to be our exit ticket, right? It's going to give me a way to find out what you guys learned, and then assess on that and maybe let me know what I have to keep teaching or reteach, all right? So let's start doing the KWL together. One of the first things we can definitely put in together is in 1861 to 1865 is when the Civil War happened, right? So we can get that one right away. Make sure you got something on your desk to write with. All right. You got that for a second. Ruben, you got something else to add to it?
I know the Civil War, it was in the United States.
Right. So being it's a Civil War, right, it means it happens on our turf, happened in the United States, and it was between actual states right next to each other, right? So we had New Jersey involved in it, and then in the South, we had states like Texas and Florida that were involved in it. All right, anybody else give me another thing that we might know?
It was the war between the North and the South.
Right, really good, right? So it was a war between the North and the South, all right? And there's actually another way that we can label them. Does anybody know that? All right, it's good. So we can take that and we can fill that in for our second box, right? That we want to know what else the South could be labeled as, or what else the North could be labeled as. All right, those are something that we can put in for that, for the W, right? For the second box. And let's figure out one more W to put in there. Anybody have another W they can put in there? Edis?
Since the war was in the United States, who was considered good or bad guys?
Right, so Edis asks a great question, guys, right? We've got a war in the United States, all right? So it's our own people, right? It's our own people that we're living with. But who's good and who's bad in this effort, right? Is the North good or is the South bad? All right, so it's a really good question that Edis presents. Hopefully by the end, we can put that into what we learned in our exit ticket, right? So if we all got that, I'm gonna go on and move on to the PowerPoint. Everybody's good for that, right? Okay. Does anybody read this first paragraph for me? Lisa?
When Abraham Lincoln, a known opponent of slavery, was elected president, the South Carolina legislature perceived the threat, calling a state convention. The delegates voted to remove the state of South Carolina from the union known as the United States of America.
Okay, perfect. And before we go into that second paragraph, just to let you guys know. So Abraham Lincoln, right? He's become president and he's running on this theme of anti-slavery, right? He doesn't want any of that to really happen. So what happens is South Carolina comes in and they're like, we don't want this. You know, we want to keep things the way they are. So they're against it and they succeed, which means to break away. It's followed by 6 more states. Anybody want to read those states off for me? Go ahead. Right here, starting right here.
Okay. Mississippi, Florida, Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana, and Texas.
Right, and then 4 more join the effort, right? Because they've seen these first states do it. So Virginia, Arkansas, Tennessee, and then North Carolina also come on. And it makes these 11 states eventually form the Confederate States of America. Right, so the Confederate States of America was known as the Southern States, which is kind of going to answer our first question when we go into this next slide, right, of who was involved.
So is the blue South America or like Southeast?
Right, so the blue is the South, and it's somewhat Southeast, so that's good. But for this lesson, we're going to consider it only South. You'll see down here that the states that are in the blue are what we consider the South here. And again, they were called the Confederate States of America. All right, and without the South, you need to have something else, right? What's the other part we're looking for here? The North, right. So the North is this Union and Free State territories. You can see, obviously, that there's a couple here on the West that joined later, but and that a lot of the United States isn't made yet. All right, isn't formed. Okay. So there's something missing here. All right. Can anybody tell me something a little more that they see here that is missing in between here, in this area? What those states might be called? So guys, these would be called the border states, all right? These are the border states, and why these were so important was because they had a great economic power to them. They also had their own individual armies in each state. And think about it, if you're in the South and you need to get to the North, you've got to get through these states, all right? Now, these states were part of the Union, but they still held slaves. So it was really difficult for Lincoln to understand it, to work with them. He had to pass laws that didn't upset them, but still made them want to be part of the Union. So it was really important to have these states on their side, all right? Anybody have any questions? Concerns? Everybody's okay? So, one of the reasons we were just saying, why were the border states so important? Anybody have an answer for what I just said, why the border states were so important? All right, economics, for transportation to get to the other states, right? It was a geographical great location, all right? It's important geographically. Why are they unusual though? What did the border states hold that made a difference, right? They had slaves still. So they still were in the Union, but they still had slaves, which was kind of against the norm. Only the South, who were against the Union, had the slaves. But again, Lincoln wanted to meet them. It was really important to him, so he kind of let that skirt through. All right, so those are two things that you really want to know about that. All right, there's a quote that I always like to put in here, and this is what Lincoln said. He says, "I hope to have God on my side, but I have to have Kentucky." Right, so as important as God and religion is to him, it's more important during the Civil War that he has Kentucky. And if we just go and look back here, Kentucky's right down here, right? Pretty decent sized state. You need Kentucky to get through, right? You need Missouri, West Virginia, Delaware, and Maryland also, but you need Kentucky to get through. All right, everybody okay so far? Any questions? No? Okay, so the Civil War, right? How did they fight? It was a term called total war. And what this means is it's this organization of all these resources, people and products, right? Doesn't matter, of a country towards the war effort. So if we need people, we're gonna grab that. If we need food or supplies, we're taking that too. Wherever we need, we're taking it. The resources of enemy civilians are fair targets in total war. All right, so farms, food, example. So if we had Edis on the north, right? He's got red on, he's on the north. I'm gonna put Jody Ann in the south, right? And she's like, you know what? I'm gonna go visit Edis on his farm, and I feel like taking his livestock. It was fair game. And if Edis wanted to turn around and say, well, I'm gonna shoot you for taking my livestock, that's fair game. Because in total war, it didn't matter what you needed to get done. You took your enemy resources, you know, without cause, without even thinking. All right? So, question that I like to pose, right? And this is not on your Cornell notes, but you can answer this. Is a government ever justified in targeting civilians in wartime, right? Non-soldiers. So imagine yourselves, you're regular civilians, and if we were in a war, would it ever be okay for a government, instead of attacking our armies, to come attack you? All right, it's a question I want you to pose to yourselves. Think about it, write it down in there. Give yourselves, 30 seconds to think about that. All right. Just while you're thinking about that, I'm just going to talk about some advantages and disadvantages. So the North, one of their advantages is their population. 22 million compared to the South, who only had 9 million. When you compare that in soldiers, it's a big deal, right? And people fighting. They have 4 million men of combat age. Combat age was 18, probably 17 for some kids, maybe even 16 if they want to lie about their age. 1.2 million men in the South are of fighting age. All right, so a lot of differences. But what does the South have that the North doesn't have? What's on the bottom? Slaves, right? 3.5 million in slaves that they forced to fight for them. The North side, what they did is they let their people who want to be slaves be their choice. All right, they had a choice to become into the North Army, and with that would gain their freedom. And that's it, we're done. So Cox just let me know 10 minutes was up. I'm gonna send you this line.